If you have just family and friends who are around you and they see that you're kind of sabotaging your dreams, because as you said, you don't need to be an innovator, you don't need to live in America to be very successful. Hey, I don't, but I have my own businesses and I'm doing just fine. I'm kind of on a mission to help other people do the same and get from that point they have some raw idea to a very profitable business. But it also made me realize that if I want something, if I have a dream, I have to do it right now because tomorrow might not happen. But in my opinion, that's just a starting point. That doesn't mean that it's our destiny. Like I said, in the 1999, when Serbia was bombed, I didn't choose that to happen to me. That would have shaped me into something like, I can't do anything. I'm just going to sit. I'm going to do what all the generations before me did. Or I could use that as the fuel to, start surrounding myself with other people, growing, learning. And it's a journey. Life's a journey. You deserve something. Why aren't you pursuing your dreams? Like, what's stopping you? And I think that's something that we really need. The majority of people that I work with, some of my clients, they're scared. Fear is always behind us in a way that they're scared it's gonna fail. For me, like all these past 10 years and everything that happened, it happened for a reason. I had many ups and downs.
Hola a todos y bienvenidos a un nuevo episodio de este podcast En la mente del viajero, quien les habla Heidy Pérez, su host. Este episodio va a estar grabado en inglés y hoy traigo un tema muy interesante que es cómo pasar de una idea a un producto o de una idea a la acción. Así que para eso nos acompaña una invitada muy especial, ella es de Serbia, así que voy a estar grabando este episodio en inglés, ahora voy a cambiar y bueno. So, thank you very much, Nina, for being here.
Thank you for inviting me.
I'm so glad to have you. And
Same here.
We met 2 years ago in Iceland.
Sure.
We were just walking and minding our own business, and then our paths crossed. Not just one, but like 3 times. And it was
we actually did travel a bit together, right?
Yeah. Half of our way in Iceland was together somehow. So it was interesting, right? Because we didn't meet, but we connected at some point. And we spoke about something that today is a reality. And I'm happy to have this topic because it's to how to bring an idea to a product or how to bring an idea to a reality, right? And that is a powerful thing, Nina. So I'm glad to have you to talk more about this. Yeah, so let's go deep into this topic. For people out there listening, what can you tell us about you?
Yeah, well, first of all, thank you. Really, I'm very grateful that I had the opportunity to talk about this topic with you. And to the listeners, I'm an entrepreneur, but I do not come from a family of entrepreneurs. My dad's a mechanic, my mom's a nurse. I don't know if I kind of stumbled by accident or I just followed my intuition and that's where I am. But yeah, for the past 10 years, I've been actually discovering and building digital products, softwares, those kind of things. And now I'm kind of on a mission to help other people do the same and get from that point they have some raw idea to a very profitable business.
That's very interesting. And actually you are from Serbia, and you told me previously that you were from a small town. How was growing up in Serbia, and how did it shape the way that you see opportunities today?
Mm-hmm. Well, I come from a very, very small town called Sremska Mitrovica, but it's actually quite known town. It's known as Sirmium because that's actually one of the oldest cities in Europe. So just for people who don't know where Serbia is, it's Southeast Europe. And growing up there, it was always kind of comparison between something very old and something new. And what do I mean by that? When you grow up in a town where ancient, Romans used to walk, you see all these ruins, you see everything that they created at that point. And then you live in this world right now when you see new buildings that are rising. So it made me dream a lot about how it is in Italy or in other countries, what's different there and what's different here. So, it wasn't all nice growing up. As when we talked about last time, I told you how in 1999 Serbia was bombed. I was a very little kid, we didn't have shelter, but I was old enough to realize what was happening. Why do I need to sit underneath the kitchen table? Even though my mom tried to play with us, tried to make it all look good, but I was kind of aware that this is not good. But also at a very young age, I realized that tomorrow is never promised, and we are very fragile as humans. So growing up there, I think it really shaped me in a way that I realized that what was many years ago doesn't mean that's going to happen and be exact same years and right now or in the future. But it also made me realize that if I want something, if I have a dream, I have to do it right now because tomorrow might not happen.
Wow, so deep. And we were sharing about our paths. As I told you that I'm also from Venezuela, and how our perspective somehow was similar about this. And we were talking about maybe sometimes as human beings, we come to this world in disadvantage without our perspective developed yet, right? So we are like receiving all this information from our family, from the environment, and how can we create our own criteria, our own voice, and like shouting down the external voices that stop us from dreaming or believing or creating something. What do you think about that?
I mean, as you said, we're all born into different circumstances that we probably didn't choose. It depends who believes in what, if you chose your family or not. But let's say that we didn't choose any of that. So the family, the culture, beliefs, the knowledge that was handed to us, the patterns, right? So if we have generational trauma, it's probably going to be passed on to us. But in my opinion, that's just a starting point. That doesn't mean that it's our destiny. Like I said, in the 1999, when Serbia was bombed, I didn't choose that to happen to me. I was a very young girl. It's impossible when you have 5 or 6 years to manifest or to ask something like that to happen to you, right? But it did shape me to a certain point. But I think that, as you said, the building your own criteria, thinking independently, and those kind of things begins when you become aware that all of these things that are happening in your environment or with your family or everybody else, those are just inherited defaults. So I always like to ask myself, like, okay, which of these beliefs that my family taught me serve me and which are limiting me? What do I truly know? What do I do? And when I'm just repeating because I grew up with it, because I saw my mom doing it or my grandma doing it, right? So every time I want to make a decision, I try to think about, is this decision really mine? Or am I making the decision because of my environment, because of the culture that I grew in, or because of the family that I grew up in? So I think that if people want to build their own criteria, you should really, that's why I like to travel. You should expose yourself to diversity of thought. So traveling, different cultures, books, mentors, they're going to give you a different perspective in a way that you can even start to test some of your new ideas and new thoughts through this experience. And in that way, I think you're going to really step out from the, okay, I grew up in Serbia. I had a, not the greatest childhood in that way when it comes to the external environment. That could have shaped me into something like, I can't do anything. I'm just going to sit. I'm going to do what all the generations before me did. Or I could use that as the fuel to, start surrounding myself with other people, growing, learning, and it's a journey. Life's a journey.
Yeah, it is. Actually, you said being aware, like the first step. And I think for that, we need to ask questions to ourselves and to know us better. And once you have these questions and you go into this first step, it's like identifying what is ours and what is somehow inherited from our family. And then it's like to identify, this is the life that we want to live, or this is the life that was given,
Yes.
And if this is not the life that we want to live today, what are we doing to reduce this space between what we want and where we want to be, or what we want to do or be or whatever. And it's not that easy, obviously, it's easy to say it. It's easy to talk about this today, but the insight and go into our minds, our fears, our demons is really, really hard to be face to face to our trauma. Because as you said, we create this reality when we are young and we don't realize what we are processing as information inside us. And later in our lives, most of the time, the questions comes when it's a hard time. Because when we are in a good place and having fun and everything, we don't think that much about this. But when we are in a hard time, we start questioning things and, asking why, where, how. And and
100%.
And I hope people can ask those questions without being in a hard situation, because it is easier to go through it because you have the energy, or you have the time, or you have the intention to live fully and enjoy life. But when we are having a hard time, we don't have the energy to deal with this internal thing and so on. But whenever we have the time and the opportunity to do it, it's a good thing to do, because that also connects us to the creativity, and it's like our power to create things that maybe sometimes we think that only genius people can create, only genius can discover, only genius can innovate in something. And all of us have the power to create something.
True.
But we have all these biases that we are not enough, or we are not intelligent enough, or we are not, we have not the standard something to create something. So how was your path in this? How did you find your power of creating and to bring ideas into life?
I'll just add one thing on top of what you said, and I really like you mentioning, like, it's very hard to go inwards and ask all those questions. And I have a mini habit that I do. I like to record my thoughts after brushing my teeth. In a way that, for example, if I have a big presentation or I have a new idea about a product that I want to create, I like to record my thoughts to see what am I thinking, what I'm really saying inside my head to myself. And then after that, I would sit for 5 or 10 minutes and just think, why do I believe this? And I kind of like to do that until I hit that root assumption that I have about me, or a limiting belief that I have about me. And I think that in this situation, it's important to also surround yourself with other people who will question you, but in a good faith. To have those, if you have just family and friends who are around you and they see that you're kind of sabotaging your dreams, because as you said, you don't need to be an innovator. You don't need to live in America to be very successful. Hey, I don't, but I have my own businesses and I'm doing just fine. It's because I have these people in my life who when they saw that I was kind of limiting myself, they would go and tell me, like, Nikolina, what are you doing? You deserve something. Why aren't you pursuing your dreams? Like, what's stopping you? And I think that's something that we really need.
Yeah. Well, you actually are talking about how to put our ideas outside our brain. And it's interesting because we process that much information, we have automatic thoughts and everything, that we need to start organizing it. And by putting it outside, writing it, for example, doing journalism, that somehow you do it, that is writing, but in this case you record it. Um, it it cannot go into the subconscious, but instead when you just take those thoughts and you start intentionally doing something with it, the first step is just as simple as putting it out, writing it, or recording in this case, or anything like that. Because if not, you will lose it in your very busy, very very foggy mind, because we present that much information and we are dealing with that much in the day-to-day basis, that I find that exercise very, very important. I do something like that. I write it in my notebook. So yeah, it's easier to organize. Well, now I have like an Excel with priorities. I mean, I have ideas, priorities, and if I know this is easier or this is more factible than the other thing, just that have priority. But yeah, it's a small exercise, but it's so important. And I really like that this is one of the first steps of how to bring an idea into reality.
Absolutely, because I think you already mentioned that it's like, if you put it out there on a piece of paper, you know you're not going to forget it. But it's also about just doing something. A majority of people that I work with, some of my clients, they're scared. Fear is always behind us in a way that they're scared it's going to fail. They're scared it might even succeed. I had a client who came to me and he had a brilliant idea, and he said, but Nina, what if it all goes right? What am I going to do? He was afraid to step out of the known, the comfort zone, into something very unknown. And what I always suggest people in these cases is just to start small. So you have the big vision. That's your compass. That's what's guiding you, right? You're not going to sit in a car and say, I'm just going to drive. You know that you want to reach a certain city or a country, right? So we have the ideas, the vision that we have, and it's our compass. But then what we should do is just tiny little steps, baby steps, right? So today I might not do anything about the idea that I have. Tomorrow I might sit for 15 minutes and think about, okay, who is this idea for? Like, who do I want to serve? Who is my ideal customer?
And you talk about the fear and about all these biases and everything. So we have a superpower as well, which is neuroplasticity, the ability of the brain to form and recognize synaptic connections, especially in response to learning of experience. So if we can learn and relearn something, what are we doing to create this thing? What are we doing to nurture our brain, to nurture our ideas, the way that we want to live or create or exist, And I believe that we can do whatever we want, and to bring this idea into the reality, and to create the life that we want to live with purpose, with intention. But many, many times people don't know even what they want, how they want to live, because it is hard to dream. When we have like a hard situation, or we are in a hard environment, such as yours when we were a child, it is somehow difficult to think this is not the reality, or this might be temporary, and just I can think and dream about the life that we want to have. But many, many people don't even try to dream about that life, to dream about about freedom. I don't know if I'm if I'm making sense.
No. Yeah, it makes sense. Yeah, I agree.
So I don't know if maybe some of us have like an innate way to dream or to think about the things that we want, because when we were talking, both of us, we knew since we were a kid the life that we wanted.
Yes.
But so many people out there don't know how. What can we say to these people? When we are alive, and we have the opportunity to create. So
true. To be perfectly honest, when I was a kid, I didn't know that my dream career is gonna be in the IT world, or that I'm gonna be an entrepreneur one day. Because I grew up in an environment that I did, no matter, I really had a lot of support from my family. I can't say anything about that, but growing up in Serbia, you cannot compare someone's life here to somebody who is in Asia and Africa and America. So we're all very different. The environment is different, and it does shape us as humans. But I remember walking through the life knowing that I want to have something that's going to bring me security in a way that if things happen that happened in the 1999, I will have a business that's online and it's stable and I can leave and not have to hide underneath the kitchen table, without any shelter. So at that time, that was my compass. So I knew I had to learn a lot. I had to build that kind of security and stability for me. But then on the other hand, as I was progressing in life, I realized that I have to have a more precise vision, because if you don't know exactly what you want, then who knows what's going to happen. As I said in that example, if you sit in a car and you think, oh, I'm just going to drive, where are you going? Like, when's the finish line? You don't know that. But if you sit and say, I will drive to Budapest, you may take one left turn or right turn. You may have some roadblocks, those kind of things, but ultimately you reach there because you know exactly where you want to go. But how do you come to that point where you know, okay, this is it, this is exactly what I want to do? For me, it was all about doing some small exercises of starting to imagine, what is my perfect day? What does it look like? And it wasn't it didn't just came like this, you know. At first it was, okay, I don't like this, so I'll start from that. I don't want this. But in that case, I thought, okay, what did I like? And traveling gave me that opportunity to, escape from the environment that I had here and also experience something else and say, okay, I like this or I don't like this. Reading books also gave me that ability to step into someone else's world or imagine something else. And all of these things kind of compounded to the fact that I was able to every single time choose what it is exactly that I like or don't like and start shaping the vision that I had about my life. And that's how ultimately I came to the point where I am right now.
Yeah, somehow creating your mindset. What was your mindset as the base of the life that you wanted to live? And I also agree with that. I also agree with the point of, I don't like this, how can I change this? And what is in between, right? Because when we change it without seeing what is behind, maybe we have a pattern and we can just go back to it. So it's so important to go deep into why this doesn't work for me right now. Or and being conscious is one of the most important things in life, I believe.
Yeah,
Because somehow we have information and we're receiving new information every day and every second, right? But what can we do with that information is more valuable. Actually, as a psychologist, for example, it's important for us that patients don't have access to certain kind of information because maybe they won't be able to process it, right? So we try to navigate it without exposing our patients. And it's important that people also know this. It's not about having more information, it's about having the information that works for you. It's important to have the right ideas at the right moment and to know what to do with that, right? Because if we have that much information and we don't know what to do with that, it's also overwhelming. It's also a lot of energy wasted because we are thinking, what can I do, or what is this for? So we all have times. we'll have we'll have the moment that we need, where we know this is the right moment. We need to know this, and we can do this with that information. It can be experiences, it can be something else, but yeah, we'll have, and that is important because many times we used to compare with other people processes.
True.
And that is so dangerous. And nowadays that we are so exposed in the social media and so on, this is the day to day. And the insatisfaction is because of that. It's because you can have the same path as someone else, but you won't receive the information the same as the other person. Perspective is everything in this.
Yes.
You are not processing the information the same way they are, even though you have the same path. So social media is impacting negatively in that part of the process and mental health of people. What did you do when you were younger to not to compare with other people in your life?
Yeah, I love what you said, like how about time. That really stuck with me because, I'm almost 32 now, and I didn't start when I did try and build something when I was 22, but it didn't succeed. But a lot of people out there, they think that you need to start at a very young age to succeed. They think if they have 40 or 50, they can't start. But there are a lot of very successful people out there in the world who started when they were 50. So time is, as you said, it's when you feel ready. Because I worked with a lot of clients who, they have a family, they have 2 kids and a wife, and they need stable 9 to 5 job in order to, provide to their family. And working on their dream and their ideas, it used to be on pause because they thought they need to quit everything to do this now. And now, as you said, and I agree, social media is a very bad influence. So we'll get to that. But one thing that I want to highlight here is that people can start now with AI and everything, how the technology is progressing. You can start working on your ideas as a side hustle. You can do 15 minutes every day. You can do 1 hour per week. And that's going to compound. You're going to start slowly. You're going to build that confidence, build the momentum, and then you'll come to the point where your side hustle will grow. You'll reach the point where you can now finally quit your 9 to 5 and start working on your dream life. So that's what I wanted to add when it comes to the time and everything else. And for the social media, it is tough. In my case, I don't have a lot of social media accounts. I have LinkedIn. And it's a business network, so I like to go there and read about other people's experiences, advices, and those kind of things. But what I think is very important when it comes to social media is that you have to understand that what's presented, it's not what's really happening in that person's life. So it's all like, we're going to record a video, I'm going to smile, I'm going to record it while I'm somewhere. I'm going to set it to an editor who's going to make it even more beautiful. They're going to make sure that my hair looks really lovely. But it doesn't mean that that's reality. And I think that's the
only
biggest...
superficial things.
Exactly. And that's the biggest problem because you're comparing yourself to something that's maybe not real. And that's why I never compare myself to anybody, to be perfectly honest, because I only wanted to be better as myself, and the only person who I compared myself to was basically me. I like to do those retrospectives, at the end of the day, I always like to think about, okay, how was my day? What was good? What wasn't good? What did I really like? Because I was mentally in a very bad place when COVID struck. I left a long-term relationship. I didn't have a place to stay. I had to go back to my hometown to live a few months with my parents. But at that time, I realized that I couldn't compare myself to what other people were doing at that time or anybody else. I just wanted to be better every single day. And in order to get better, we come back to what we were talking about at the very beginning. You have to journal your thoughts. You have to understand what's working for you, what's not working for you, because each and every single one of us we are on our own journey, where we were born, what we're gonna through, and our moments will come, but we have to work on them. It's not something that magically appears to you. If you're in a low vibration, if you have constantly negative thoughts, nothing positive can come to you. And even if it does come to you, you're probably not going to see it. So I think it is hard, as you said. We need to turn back to ourselves, to think about what's working for us and not, what do we like and not, and then slowly build the confidence, slowly rise our vibrations, slowly begin, get that dopamine effect, and progress.
Yes, I believe when we talk about habits, and I will now talk about this topic because it's really important for what you've been saying. We talk about physical habits, maybe like just going and exercise and do yoga and do, whatever is related to the physical thing. It's also mental, but we also have like emotional habits that we don't know, such as this one, to write what is in our mind or to be aware of things and be grateful, and just a few exercises. But those exercises make absolutely the difference in our lives. And it's not that common to talk about emotional processes throughout our lives and how those impact in the day-to-day, the decisions we make, how we feel, how we act or react, and are so small actions, but the difference is huge, 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 huge.
Sure.
So I hope people can find this information and know that you can do something else with what you feel or what you want to feel, and not only just receiving and reacting and turning off the fire at the moment it appears, but work with a strategy. And a strategy is not about taking all the control all the time, or having the control all the time, but to know that you have the tools, you have the power of changing it or redirect or relearn, or anything that it takes to change the situation. Because sometimes we put the blame on the government, on the situation, and of course it's something that is real. I'm not saying no. Obviously it's something, but we cannot expect all of our life that my country will be working better, or the government will make better decisions, or just putting everything, all the expectations outside. We also need to expect from us, and that is the hard part.
Yes,
There's
but
the
I like what you
journey that
said.
it takes.
Yeah, I like the fact that you said, like, we're waiting for like some sort of a sign from the external environment, and we're using the environment as an excuse to not work on our dreams or our ideas, compared to actually looking at what's really stopping us and why are we using that as an excuse. Because let's be honest, I do live in Serbia, but I have running water. I have roof over my head, I am warm in winter. I have air condition that I can turn on in summer. I'm already happy and I'm grateful that I have those kind of things. Why should I spend the rest of my day worrying about what I do not have in terms of the external environment that I cannot change, because I couldn't change the fact that I was bombed in 1999, right? But what I can change is how am I reacting to those things and what am I doing every single day. And for me, if I have even 5 minutes per day to just dream and to think about what I want and why am I on this earth and what do I want to do until I, die, that's progress for me, because I don't want to wake up when I'm old and think about, why didn't I do it sooner? Why did I waste so many years? Blaming the government, blaming the country, blaming everybody around me.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, we are not saying maybe we are victims or we were at some point, but what are we doing with that information? Because also we can learn a lot from bad situations, right?
Yes.
I mean, we don't want to be strong all the time. We don't want to deal with those kind of situation all the time. But if it happened and we can change it, as you said, what are we doing with that information? What did we learn from it? And how can we apply that information to change something else and not be in that situation, not being vulnerable anymore? How can we create opportunities and how can we take us off of the front line? Because we can do it. And now, Nina, that we have all this background and all this context, let's talk about your first product. Let's go into 10 years back, maybe 2015, your very first digital product.
I actually got to economical faculty, but it was a field of business informatics. So I studied both worlds. One world was business and economy and how to negotiate and everything else that's needed for that world. And the other one was programming and all those kind of things. And in the final year of college, I still remember how I thought, oh my God, I have to do, bachelor thesis. So I was like, oh, I don't want to write 50 pages or something like that. So why not create something? Why not use the knowledge that I have to create a product? So I did that. I actually went and interviewed my aunt who works in Children's Hospital in my hometown. I designed the entire software. I programmed it. But yeah, I mean, it was really bad because I made all the mistakes that you make when you're starting out. You just think about the features, you think about design. I didn't even think about the fact that, the Children's Hospital in my hometown already has a very good functioning software. So why would they use something like this? But okay, it was good enough for me to graduate. It was good enough for me to get a job just 10 days after graduating. But it was a very valuable experience because it really helped me understand that when you're building products, digital products, when you're working on your idea, all of these ideas and products exist because there are somebody out there who has a problem or a need. And you have to focus on them first and not on your brilliant idea, but on them. And you have to have the empathy in order to create something that's very meaningful. It is going to probably succeed if the market is okay and there is you can be profitable and everything else, the calculations that you do.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I love that you went from failure to entrepreneur.
Yes.
And in between a lot of, work, inner work. And
yes. Of
work
course.
in different companies. You have a path in corporate and you've been working with many clients and many generations as well in between. So now you can bring this knowledge and experience to your customers, to your clients.
Yes.
How do you take advantage of it now that you have all this background?
I mean, for me, like all these past 10 years and everything that happened, it happened for a reason. I had many ups and downs, majority of people, they think that once you start, it goes like this. But I always like to remind people that when you go and somebody examines your heart, it looks like this. right? You have ups and downs, ups and downs. If it's a flat line, that's not a good sign, right? The same is when you're an entrepreneur, the same is when you're building a product. It's going to be a lot of ups and downs, and that's why internal work is very important. Because if you know how to handle stress and pressure, and if you know how to ground yourself and to remove all these negative thoughts and to have clarity, to have like a peaceful mind to think, that's what's very important. So every time I work with my clients, we go from idea, or some people even come to me who don't even have an idea, but they know they want to leave 9 to 5 and want to build their own businesses. So we start by examining their strengths and what do they like and how can we turn that into a business and a product. But the other ones who have an idea, we start from that, and then we start just learning both worlds in a way. Like, one is the technical part. We have these tools and techniques, how we validate ideas fast, see if it's a profitable one or not, what do our customers really want, how can we give them value in order for them to pay for our product, and those kind of things. But that's one part. The other very important part are the soft skills. You learning to go out there and fully understand your customer, because that's one step closer to you succeeding. Because let's just think about this way. Many, many years ago, when we didn't have cars, if you went out there and the person who had a brilliant idea about creating a car, that's Ford. If he went out there and spoke with people, they would probably tell him, well, I want a faster horse. And then if he didn't have that moment of empathy, he probably would have said, oh, my idea is bad, I'm going to give up. Like, that's it. But he knew that people rarely articulate their problems directly. And he said, okay, if they say I want a faster horse, that means that they want to reach another destination faster in a better way, right? And that's what we also have to learn. And that's the soft skill. Those are the soft skills. And that comes from also your inner work. So I guess to answer your question shortly, for me, when I work on my own products or when I work with my clients, we always look at different aspects that are out there, and we learn different skills, or I coach them to do different things, not just go out there and start building, because building comes later. What comes first is to really understand your customer, who needs, like just in your case, you have a product, but who needs to listen to this? Who is your ideal listener? What do they want to learn? That's something that determines who do you invite on the podcast, what you talk about. And you have the empathy for the listeners who are going to spend 45 or 1 hour listening to your podcast. You have to understand what they need, how you're going to help them. That's what your product should be.
I love how you transform your experience into this wisdom to accompany your clients, and in that they feel guided and understood as well. Because in this journey of being an entrepreneur, or finding an idea and creating something, we manage that much anxiety and fear and many other emotions. That is not that common to talk about that. So I'm happy that we are doing it and keeping it real. So I do believe that is also really, really important, as you said, the soft skills in this case. And empathy is something that we need to still work in that quality in the real life, because that is another bad thing about social media. We are that exposed to different scenarios in life that we are losing somehow the sense of empathy. And it's so important to have empathy nowadays. As you said, nowadays you use it for your clients to work. I use it for my clients as well. I need to have empathy to be a psychologist or a talent partner or anything. So we need to let our ego out of the equation that is generating all these problems and stopping us from connecting like we are doing right now, right? Because we can connect when our ego is out, when we can show ourselves vulnerable and, without the mask and the filters and everything.
Yeah.
So it's beautiful. It's a beautiful work. I really love what you are doing now.
Thank you. I like the fact that you said like we have to get the mask off, because with AI now, the only thing that's keeping us human and making your product stand out compared to others is the authenticity that you have. And it does come from what you said. It's from the vulnerable parts of you. What makes you you? Like, I'm not trying to hide where I come from or where I'm from. And I encourage my clients to think about when they start working on their ideas. I always tell them, bring who you are into that product. Tell your story. People want to buy from you, and they'll buy your product if they know your story. And if that product, of course, is something that they need. But don't just create it like somebody else does. You have to differentiate yourself.
Yes, well, now that we have the AI is another thing. This is a time when we need to work more and more in our soft skills and our emotions and our values, in the empathy, because that is the only thing that remains about human beings and human connection and differentiate us from the AI. So yeah, I hope people can realize about this and the impact of not working on it, because we are living it now. All this hate speech and all these hate movements all around social media and in real life um, is because of the lack of work in this field, in the emotions. I don't know why. I mean, emotions have always been like taboo, like something we don't talk about that much. I mean, we talk about it, but superficially.
Yes.
And it's so important, even in our life. I mean, personally or at work, we need the emotions, and we need to,
of course,
and we need to be assertive, and we need to have emotional intelligence, and etc. And many people can see that, can see how important emotional intelligence is. And now it's the only difference with the AI.
Yes. But majority of people, when they have an idea, they'll just take the AI and they'll just start typing with it. And then they'll take another AI and then they'll maybe build something. And I'm like, don't do that, because you mentioned how emotions are important. But what I'm saying, why not go out there and build just with AI? Why you have to first have empathy for your customers and go from there? Because humans are emotional beings. We make our decisions purely on emotion, and then we justify with logic. So if you use an AI tool, it's going to go through all these facts and it's going to prepare. I mean, it can do a lot of good things. I use AI a lot. But the first thing that you want to do is understand, how are these humans operating? How are they thinking? What problem they have or needs? Because we make decisions based on our emotions. So you start from there. And that's what you want to learn, and that's what you want to do. And I think, as you said, not a lot of people are talking about this, because it's much easier to come and talk about, okay, these are the frameworks that you can use. These are the techniques that you can use to go from idea to a profitable product. And I mean, don't get me wrong, I do talk about those things, of course. But I think what's more important is what we're talking about today. And that's the reality that being an entrepreneur is all about being obsessed with your customers, stepping into their shoes and thinking about their problems, their fears, their environments, their needs. Because if you don't do that, how can you expect to build a good product?
Yes, absolutely powerful statement.
Sure.
Nina, and when back in the when we met in Iceland, we were talking about this. You at that time you were working in the corporate environment,
Yes.
and
Yes.
and you told me about this project that you wanted to have this life where you were able to
Yes.
travel and you were working with your own clients and so on. So now it's a reality. And you have built this lifestyle that allows you to travel the world.
Yes.
Why was this freedom so important to you?
I think a lot of that came from the fact that I had this sort of unstable environment when I was little. As I already said, not because of my parents, because everything else that was happening. And I think that that really influenced me deciding to have something that's online, that I can do from wherever I am, not just here in Serbia, but somewhere else. Because here in Serbia, if you work in a corporate company, you have to go to work every single day. So that means waking up every single morning, preparing, commuting to work, working from 9 to 5, commuting back from work, going to exercise to gym or whatever, to yoga, whatever people do. And then in the evening, you maybe have a dinner with your partner or something like that. And then you're like, okay, I want to sit now and think about my dream, my ideas and everything. And then you realize you're just drained. You can't do something like that at the end of the day. And going through that was my wake up moment where I thought, I don't want to spend next 30 years going through the exact same things, working for somebody else, making their dreams a reality, because I was doing that. Like I was bringing unbelievable partnerships and clients and a lot of new revenue. I created a new team. I implemented a whole new process. I was doing a lot of meaningful work and I got a pretty impressive numbers at work. But at the end of the day, I was drained because I didn't want to live like that. I didn't want to spend the next 10, 20 years going through the same thing over and over again. I wanted to have that sense of freedom where if I want to work today, I'm going to work. If I don't want to, if I want to travel and visit you, I'm going to travel for 2 days. I'm going to go out there and I'm going to, spend some time with you or with somebody else. And I know that my business will still operate. I know that my products are still going to be out there. People are still going to reach out to me and I can reach out to them wherever I am on this planet. So that traveling, it wasn't just about freedom. For me, it was also about designing my life intentionally, not around what I should do, like what were generations before me doing, but about what makes me feel alive. What do I really want? I think that's what we really need to think about. And we already talked about all these techniques, how you can do something like that. But I think that's something that you begin with.
Yeah, and many people may think that having this life that you have today is lucky. Many
No,
people, many
it's not
people
luck.
would think that, and
Oh,
many people would like to do that as well without the work that it requires. So,
yes.
how can well, now you have planned this for about 2 years or 3 or maybe
Yeah.
more. How can we go from a 9 to 5, corporate work or any other
Yeah.
work to the life that we'd want to live?
Yeah, I think number one is to define your perfect day. It's to understand, like I read somewhere a very good thing, and they said if you had a magical wand, and let's say that in the next hour, whatever that you want is going to happen, there is 100% guarantee. So you have that written agreement, written on the paper, a guarantee that it's going to happen. What would that be? And I think you
Yeah.
don't need to answer that, but like that's the number one thing that people need. That's how they need to think. If there were no limitations, like doesn't matter
Yes.
where you are, doesn't matter if you have the money or not. What is it? What do you want? And that should become your compass. And then from that, you start building it slowly and slowly. So you take baby steps. You do one thing at a time. Maybe today you're not going to do it. Tomorrow you're going to do something. But what I'm trying to say is freedom isn't built overnight. Nobody can just go and say, I'm just going to quit 9 to 5 and start a business. Or I'm going to build this product. I'm going to make my dreams come true. Somebody can do that. And that's awesome. But majority of us couldn't do something like this because you have a family or you have to live.
Yeah,
You need money.
and yeah.
Yes. And that's why when you first know what you exactly want, so you have to be precise. In that case, that's your compass, and you're going to start doing it slowly. And then it slowly compounds, taking these small steps. And then you'll see that after a few months, you can reach that point where your side hustle now kind of grow, and it gave you confidence, and you maybe even earn some income. And then you get that confidence, you're going to start working a bit more on it. You're going to wake up early in the morning, you're going to work on it before you go to work. That's what I did. And that's how you slowly bridge that to, point I'm working from 9 to 5 to I'm independent. And nowadays that we have AI, if you can't find ideas, you can just use AI to, do some structure exercises.
Yeah, to
AI can give you
automatize something as well.
Yes. And I was stuck too. As you said, like majority of people would say, well, you're lucky that you now have your own company and I'm just building another startup right now. But that didn't come overnight. I woke up at 5 a.m. for many years to learn, before I go to work. And then I would wake up at 5 a.m.
Exactly.
to work on my dreams. And it was that short window that allowed me to work on something that was my vision, it was my compass. It didn't come overnight, but now with the help of other people who went through that, and that's what I did. I always every single year had another mentor because I didn't want to make the mistakes that other people made. And that's what I'm trying to say is like, you have AI now, you have other people who already went through it, hire them, talk to them, or just consume their content that they're posting on YouTube, on podcasts, or LinkedIn, wherever it is. Learn from them. And that's going to accelerate your moment from I'm working to 9 to 5 to the point where
exactly,
you're living your dream life.
Yes, I've been working in an info product now, and in that info product, I'm talking about how our lives is like a company. Let's say it's our own business, and we are the CEOs. And
I agree.
All companies or industries have their own capital or their own, budget.
Yes.
So in our case, that budget is energy.
Yes.
And we have mental energy, we have the physical energy and emotional energy. Yes. What are we doing to, those are our resources, and those resources are limited. So what are we doing to manage that resources? It's strategically.
Yes.
That is the thing. You need to know where this energy is into.
True.
And once you identify that, you can start working on it. Okay,
Yes.
maybe your energy is in your health, maybe it's in the finance, maybe it's in the job. It can be anywhere. Maybe in a bad relationship, maybe in a bad environment, etc. So, what are you doing to manage the energy that you have, to have more or to use it better? And it makes me think about the sentence that says, you don't need to work more, you need to work better.
True.
It's always work better. And that is why nowadays we can see many people like living their dreams, working maybe remotely or anything. But these people might have been through all this process of understanding themselves, their own needs, their own dreams, and so on. And another thing is, when we think about this perfect day, and maybe one day we come to have it and to live this dream life, people think that when we achieve success, we don't have any other problems. We don't feel pain, or we don't have, bad experiences and so on. And no, that is not like that. You can have and you can be living a dream right now and having another situation at the same time.
Of course.
It reminds me to when this is something like superficial, but I was hiking to the Torres del Paine, which is something here in Chile, and it's a beautiful mountain. And I was dreaming about this for over a year. And when I was there, I was achieving one of my dreams, that was hiking. It was 20 kilometers and it was tough. And I was suffering, I was in pain, but I was achieving my dream. So if we move that, from our lives, is something like that. You can be achieving one dream and having something else. You can be married or having your dream wedding, and at the same time you have a situation like a sick or something like that. So the moment is now, as you said. Now is the day that we have. The moment is not other right moment. You need to enjoy the past. You need to enjoy where you are right now. Because yes, you can achieve this, but that is not the end of your life. That is not a perpetual moment. And we can live perfectly fine with two or more emotions at the same time. Not only happiness and I'm happy and there is no other feelings. You can be happy and at the same time, there is something else happening. And yeah, there is the expectation thing about what people expect or think life is.
Yeah, and I really like your hiking example, because I think that's a real example of how entrepreneurial world looks like. It does feel very tough at certain points, especially when you work as an entrepreneur. You don't have a monthly salary. So one month you might earn a lot of money, and then the next month, who knows what's going to happen. That you have that sort of unpredictable thing. But it's just like when you mentioned hiking, it's a wonderful journey. And while you're hiking, you're not just gonna, go for 20 kilometers and that's it. You're gonna take your time. You're gonna pause. You're gonna look at the nature, right? You're gonna enjoy what you're going through, because life is an experience and it's a journey, and it's not gonna be all happy and smiles. You're gonna have ups and downs. And one thing that I wanted to add while you were saying, I remembered what really helped me. It was an exercise called 4 stoves. So just like you have the oven, you have these stoves on top, right? You can't have all four burning at the same time. That's just gonna drain your resources, right? You usually have 2 that are going right now and 2 that are in the back. That I take the same approach to my life. So every quarter I change what's the top priority, because you can't just, especially as an entrepreneur, you can't have your business running all the time and then not think about other things that you mentioned. And that's your emotions, your social life, your health, your fitness, and traveling, taking the time off, everything else. But you can't also work on, your social life and also on your business and also gym and traveling and family and everything else. It's very hard to juggle. So in order to consciously think about everything and to not make something a priority for a very long time, I like to use that exercise, and I like to revisit it every quarter or maybe every month, depending on what I'm doing, and then just change the priority. Maybe this month I'm just going to focus on my mental health and my oral health, and I'm going to pause, and that's it.
Yes, actually. For example, at what point of my life my priority was to travel around the world as as you have done. But there was that time when I did this big travel. When I met you, I was traveling for around 3 months in Iceland. And at that moment I realized I didn't want that. Not the way that I thought. So my priority changed. And now, for example, my priority also changed because now that I have traveled the world and achieved what I thought it would be my success at some point, the priority also changed. And now I see success as sharing with my family and my beloved ones. And, that is my success now. And it's interesting because it's like going back from where you are, but with all of these experiences and wisdom, and it is so powerful. It's so powerful, and the more you know the world, and the more you know experiences, and you live experiences, the more you leave the ego and the material and the superficial things, and the more you connect with your inner self, the conscience, and what really matters in life.
Yeah. And I like how you mentioned, like, for you, a priority right now, and your definition of success is to be with your family and your beloved ones. And I think that's the one thing that people need to understand. Like, we don't need to chase what somebody else thinks success is, and what they're presenting in this podcast of their perfect day that looks like a robot is doing it, not a human being. Like, don't follow what you see on the social media, but as you said, think about what you really want. What's success for you? Because success for you can be to be a stay-at-home mom and to have your own garden, and maybe you'll record how you're cooking, and it will be a great success because people will love what you're cooking, and they're gonna write to you and say, your meals are delicious, you helped me save so much time. Maybe that's your idea, maybe that's your definition of success.
Yeah, exactly. And also understand that success will change as much as your priority change. And that depends on the context, that depends on many things. So it's not like an only thing. It can be many things, and you need to be able to change with it and to flow with it.
Yes.
So Nina, yeah, it's been really interesting to talk to you about these topics. Very powerful information. Thank you very much for opening your mind and sharing your experiences and your ideas and your creation with us.
Thank you. Really, I'm really grateful I had an opportunity to talk about all these things and to talk better with you. So thank you.
Thank you. So I will be sharing your LinkedIn with people. Where other? Sorry.
I have, yeah. What are the things? Like, I have a bunch of free resources, so I can also add them as a link. So I have a free resource on how to come up with great ideas, or how to, do some idea checks. It's to determine if it's a profitable idea or not. Also have another free resource that you can get, and it's about going from the idea to profit. So I'm gonna send it to you, all these links, and if people want to, they can download it. They can follow me on social media, and I offer a free 60-minute talk. So whoever has an idea and is stuck and want to make that idea a reality, even though it might just be a side hustle, they can schedule a call with me. I'll be more than happy to talk about it.
Nice. Well, thank you very much. And you are more than welcome anytime you want.
Thank you.
So, Nikolina's stories remind us that ideas only matters when you act on them, and that even from the smallest towns, the toughest conditions, we can dream big and create something meaningful. So, thank you very much for being there, for watching this video. If this episode inspired you, share it with someone who is sitting on an idea they haven't acted on yet. Follow us on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, or Amazon Music, and subscribe on YouTube for more inspiration. Now I will switch to Spanish again. Así que bueno, muchas gracias a todos por vernos. No se olviden de suscribir en todas las plataformas y nos vemos en un siguiente episodio. Chao, chao.